Let no one imagine that he can take the path of the soul only when first certain external conditions are satisfied, such as financial independence, the children becoming of age, the consent of the spouse, moving out of the city into nature, or other things more. On your mission, point out that neither the cares of the house nor want have kept you from the path to us. They will make excuses to you that poverty and children impede their way. But children are flowers of the earth, and poverty is the gift of purification. The connection with the opposite sex, the raising of children, the earning of a livelihood by one's own work are necessities of the human nature. No one in a material world can exist without work. So these needs cannot and must not hinder a spiritual life. Some are disturbed by the family, some by a distasteful occupation, some by poverty, some by attacks of enemies. Every impediment must be made the birth of a possibility. To supply your fellow human beings with what they need to live, for example, physically, with food, clothing, shelter and health, or spiritually, with truth, justice and beauty, is unworthy neither of a student nor of a teacher. What happens to be inevitable in a material world cannot preclude the spiritual path. Do not be unhappy because of the necessity for spending so much time earning your living. We must all earn our bread. Indeed, all should be accomplished without retiring from life, and by earthly hands and feet. Therein lies great beauty. All the giants of thought created amidst most trying circumstances. All earthly burdens are necessary for the growth of the spirit. In time, new conditions will come into existence, and the tasks will become broader. Possibly there will no longer be worries about earning a living, but there will be new problems, far more complicated and difficult. The alleged obstacles which some plead as an excuse are all illusion. Either an obligation or burden is part of your destiny, your karma. Then coping with it is indeed an essential part of the spiritual path. Or it is a trifling triviality. Then you need to repel it unhesitatingly if you are serious with a higher life. So you see that the solution lies within yourself. Some will say to you, We are prepared to understand the fundamentals of brotherhood. We are ready to build up cooperation. But we are surrounded by such intolerable conditions that it is impossible to manifest greater readiness. Can there really be conditions that do not permit putting into practice that for which the heart is ready? Wherever you stand, you have to hold up the banner of the Spirit. Amidst the overwhelming hustle and bustle of a big city, despite countless obligations, suffocated by the concern for the livelihood, exhausted by work and family, by the requirements and distractions of everyday life. The Mahatmas have to take care of the welfare of the world, so our burden is certainly less weighty. The city dweller may be oppressed by the bustle of his surroundings and be unable to think about a harmonious life. Even a refined philosopher can be crushed by the cares of supporting himself. Thus, the fundamental law of harmony is forgotten. People do not understand that the way to harmony is in the art of thinking. Deep contemplation is needed for the realization of harmony. Spiritual progress can be achieved always and everywhere. One may learn everywhere and always. In the course of the day, each one can apply something from the teaching. We must not seek excuse for disregarding the spiritual laws in the external circumstances. People are attempting to justify themselves by the complexity of life. For a real spiritual fighter, there is no unusable condition. He makes use of every situation in order to continue to rise. Life is for him as the material for an artist, a substance to be trained and formed in order to create something higher therefrom. Poor is the master craftsman who does not make use of all the riches of nature. For a skillful carver, a bent tree is a precious treasure. Only an impoverished imagination is satisfied with the limits set by others. In an attempt to be wily, people frequently say that many conditions prevent them from creating good, whereas in each and every condition man can create good. This is the privilege of the human state. You should recognize exactly the hostile conditions of our times offer the best opportunities to rise. The more difficult a situation is, the greater will be your achievement. Your karma has brought you into the thick of the fight of the 19th and 20th centuries and has given you opportunities for advancement spiritually, mentally, and physically far beyond those given to any other race. Not a day passes over your heads which does not bring to you tests and opportunities, which, if taken advantage of, may place you far on the path leading to adeptship. The realist takes the world as it is. We should not complain about the sphere in which we are exiled. The next level of our everlasting path might prove to be still more difficult. One must not hope for an improvement in the external condition. That would be a serious self-delusion. Things might yet become worse. He who hopes for better conditions makes his development dependent upon things which he cannot control. What fate has in store for you tomorrow, you do not know. If the expected improvement does not become true, do you then want to allow yourself to be diverted from the spiritual path? People hope that that which is most difficult will pass, and beyond it will begin blissful Amrita. What will they think if they are told that after the difficult comes the still more difficult? Perhaps people will attempt to leap away from the human path, but whither can they depart? It is wiser to assume that the difficulties will grow when you move forward on the path. The further you advance, the more furious will be the attempts of the dark forces to throw you off the track. They knew that with their gradual ascent, the ferocity of the attacks would increase. Mankind has only just left behind the lowest point of the cycle of evolution. Therefore, there will continue to prevail on Earth for quite a long time adverse, almost unbearable conditions for the spirit. This must not prevent us from laying the first foundations for a resurgence, but it should remove any illusion as to a rapid improvement in the external circumstances. We do not work for ourselves. We are working for the future, for our children, for our grandchildren. The immense advantage of the inner path is, as the external circumstances are irrelevant, it depends solely upon you yourself whether you move forward. No one and nothing, no outside conditions and no other person can stop your progress. The yogi's liberation, nothing hinders his progress. On the material level, many fail with their dreams because the circumstances do not allow their realization. Such a mishap cannot befall the warrior of the spirit. He can only fail through himself, by becoming unfaithful, by being overwhelmed by the circumstances, or by deviating from the path. If you do not leave the path of the soul, then your ascent is guaranteed. Do not be displeased, except with yourself. What do you dream of? On the spiritual path, you alone determine whether you reach your goal. When joy keeps its glow even under the most difficult circumstances, the Agni Yogi is filled with unbreakable power. There, beyond the most difficult ascent, the fiery world begins. A yogi knows that nothing can stop him from attaining the fiery world. How do the first steps on the path of the soul look like practically? This we shall discuss in the following series entitled The 10 Pillars of the Practice of Agni Yoga.